And now let's go to the second architect I talked about today. It's a shorter presentation about Claude Perrault. In fact, I talked about Claude Perrault not too long ago, but in the case of an architect who died, I talked twice, on the day of the birth and on the day when he died. So this is the second time I talk about him, Claude Perrault. He died in 1688, and he's the author, one of the authors, but maybe the main one, of the eastern facade of the Louvre Museum in Paris. Let's see what we can learn about Claude Perrault. Here is a statue of Claude Perrault. So he lived in the 17th century. So Claude Perrault, French physician, attention, he was a physician and amateur architect who, together with Louis Le Vau, Charles Le Brun, and François d'Orbay, designed the eastern facade of the Louvre. Perrault's training was in mathematics and medicine, and he was a practicing physician. So he was an amateur architect, but he worked for Louis Le Soleil, the Sun King, and he worked with famous architects and writers and artists like Charles Le Brun. Charles Le Brun was a painter. Louis Le Vau was an architect, and actually his birthday will happen a few days from now, and I will talk about Louis Le Vau soon. So aside from his influential architecture, I mean Claude Perrault, he became well known for his translation of the 10 books of Vitruvius, the only surviving Roman work on architecture, into French, written at the instigation of Colbert and published with Perrault's annotations in 1673. His treatise on the 5 classical orders of architecture followed in 1683. As physician and natural philosopher with a medical degree from the University of Paris, Perrault became one of the first members of the French Academy of Sciences when it was founded in 1666. So an interesting case, no? An architect was amateur as an architect, but he was an accomplished physician. A committee commissioned by Louis XIV, the Ludovic al XIV in Romanian, the Sun King, the Petit Conseil, comprising Louis Le Vau, Charles Le Brun, and Perrault, designed the east facade of the Louvre. It was begun in 1668 and was almost completed in 1680, by which time Louis XIV had abandoned the Louvre and focused his attention on the Palace of Versailles. The wing behind the east facade was not finished until the 19th century with the advent of Napoleon. The definitive design of this facade is attributed to Perrault, who made the final alterations needed to accommodate a decision to double the width of the south wing. So Perrault, the physician, became an architect. This is the man with the wig, most surely. Another representation probably later of him. And some drawings. I'll show now some drawings of Claude Perrault. He published interesting plates, medical plates, like this one. I mean, medical, not for human beings, but for animals. I love these plates where, a burlesque looking animal, and then you have here the studies, the analysis of the doctor, of whatever the animal might have had. Now we go to something very different. The 5 classical orders, back to physiological analysis. These are very interesting, I think, and I wonder if they cannot inform architecture somehow, even today. You would say, what does this have to do with architecture? Well, it's true. Apparently nothing, but I wonder, maybe you can create a very interesting architecture starting from the anatomical plates of Claude Perrault. He himself didn't do this, but who knows? Maybe someone in the present could. An architecture influenced by the anatomical plates of Claude Perrault. Well, amateur he might have been, but a great lover of architecture. And this I have to say, the word amateur today has a pejorative sense, a pejorative connotation. It's someone who is not a professional, rather superficial and so on. But the word amateur comes from amare in Latin, which means to love. It's literally about love. Someone who loves something, that someone becomes an amateur. But in the age of professionalism and specializations, the amateur became somehow, a worthless creature. It's not so at all. Maybe that's why Wang Shu, the important Chinese architect who received the Pritzker Prize, he called his office amateur architecture. Back to the anatomical studies, here is the lion as dissected by the scientific interests of Claude Perrault. And now, some projects which were not realized, like this one, this triumphal arch was not built, but he designed it. Now, from anatomical place to the east facade of the Louvre, where he didn't work alone, as you saw, but apparently in good measure, it is his work. The east facade is this one. You see here in plan the glass pyramid by I.M. Pei. So all this is now the Louvre Museum, but Claude Perrault apparently designed in good measure this eastern facade of the great museum, and is this one. A neoclassical architecture. This is what it is. Not everybody likes neoclassicism. Myself, I am not very, enthusiastic about it, because it could be, rather too regular or too rigid. But in the best cases, it has nobility. And look at these columns, which were designed by Perrault. They do have power, and it's not just power, they also have grace. They are well designed. So we are in Paris, the eastern facade of the Louvre, and Claude Perrault had a significant role for the design of this facade. Ornamentation, again, architecture without ornamentation is like a tree without leaves and without flowers in the spring. So maybe we should reconsider the ornament, because structure without ornament risks, not always, sometimes, but you saw the structure of Grimshaw itself, in the best cases, had something ornamental in itself. It became, because of its aesthetical virtues, sculptural, aesthetically pleasing, engaging, and thus, to an extent, ornamental, although it had a function. But beyond its function, there was also its elegance and so on. So it is important, I think, to have both structure and ornament. The ornament could become structural and the structure could become ornamental. And this was said also by Patrick Schumacher and others, especially today when you can work with parametric design, with scripting and programming, you can make structure that is ornamental and ornaments that become structure. Sorry about the background here of the picture, but you see the columns in the grace and in the force and in the complexity.